going to do that. But when they get traded, it's going to become a byproduct of the trust and communication you've built up over time. And it's not a tactic in the beginning or a metric to keep track of ever in the process. So, something I'll add is that there was a study I read about in Harvard Business Review a couple of years ago. They put a bunch of business professionals in a room, and it was clear the expressed intent was to help them network. They actually wore location transmitters, and the study showed who they talked to and whom and who talked to whom and for how long. And the study essentially concluded that people didn't follow the guidance that they had been given about diversity. Investment bankers congregated together, marketers kibitzed among themselves, and there wasn't a lot of cross-pollination, when in fact the whole purpose was to try to get some cross-pollination going. Because people like talking to people who know and like the stuff that they know and like. But I thought what was fascinating was the person identified as the best at building his network in the room was the bartender. And here's the thing to me that made it cool was everyone came to him because of what he offered them. It wasn't what he got. It was what he gave that made him a good networker. And I found that's been true for me as well. I'm willing to do favors for almost anybody and favors repeatedly over, many, many years. I have people that call me and ask for favors, and I coach them for an interview, and then I help them with their resume, and then they call me about an issue with their boss, and I never ask for any money. I'm happy to answer the question. I'm happy to do the best I can.
Is there ever such a thing as too much giving, Mark?
Yes, if you'll ask my business partner, he'll tell you yes, in fact.
Yes, in fact.
One can do too much.
Do it all the time.
Yeah. Yes, I do it all the time. And you know what? That's a function of the concepts of building a network coming into conflict with who I want to be for the rest of my life. I don't think, we make this about me, but the fact is there are people out there listening, Mike, who say both of you are giving a great deal. We spend a great deal of time doing this. It's been my experience that the joy in my life comes from giving to other people. Simple as that. I'd rather have more joy. Yeah, I'd rather have more joy than more money. Now, my corollary to this rule is you give and give and give until it hurts, and then you consider Mike's guidance to us about being careful. Offer to help people in any way you can, at any time you can. Learn more about them every time you talk to them to make your giving more focused. Be attentive to their needs. Offer others in your network to help someone that you know.
Yeah, I was going to make that point, which is sometimes giving doesn't necessarily mean giving 5 hours of your time, but it can be putting somebody in your network in touch with somebody else in your network. That's a tremendous amount of value. Don't underestimate it.
Yeah, and in fact, Tim Sanders in his book, Love is a Killer App, talks about getting out of the way of introducing two people, and then because there are two people who are talking about what they need to talk about, you being there is kind of creating friction. And if you're always involved in every connection, every broker deal you make, if you will, between two people, you're going to be busy doing nothing but that. So you want to create value even when you're not there. So if anytime you can do that, that's a great, great thing to do.
Yeah, we're going to have to come back to that in a future podcast. But you're right. Making yourself the central node in the network is not your objective.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah, you want to be a facilitator of new nodes being created and new connections being created rather than everything going through you, unless you want to pay a staff of people just to take care of your network.
Right. It's about connections, not nodes.
Yes.
But we'll come back sometime about that.
Yeah, good. Okay. Rule number 3, the final rule. This is the Control-Shift-K rule, which is stay in touch with.
Why do you call it Control-Shift-K real quick?
Okay, Control-Shift-K is the keyboard shortcut that you can use in Outlook, where if you're a computer, if you're listening to a computer right now and Outlook is up, click on Outlook to make it active and hit Control-Shift-K, and up will pop a task box. And then if you hit Control-G, up will pop the recurrence dialog box, which asks you how often you want to have this particular task recur.
Okay. And let's come back to that. I just wanted to touch on that before. We'll come back to that in a second.
I do that 20 times a week. Control-Shift-K and then Control-G. Okay. When you think about it, Mike, if you're going to build and maintain a network, you've got to get people into your network, and then you got to keep them there. The problem is people might actually be good when they click with somebody. They say, oh, I'm going to add this person to my network. This is a person I want to stay in touch with. Have you ever said to yourself, this is a person I want to stay in touch with? He's sharp. She's interesting. She's got a lot of clout in an area of the country I'm interested in, whatever the case might be. You say to yourself, I want to stay in touch. And then for some reason, so many people don't end up staying in touch.
All the time.
Yeah, and I would argue that those people never really get into your network, because just having a chance meeting with somebody and exchanging business cards, heck, that happens a billion times a day in America. But getting somebody into the network and staying with them, that's really what makes them part of your network.
Right. It's not only about the quality of the communication; it's the quantity.
Yeah, you
communication
alluded to your
that's
son,
important here.
talking to your son. I've been talking to Kate and Travis about one of the most important things about college is making friends and staying in touch. And we all just fall prey to enjoying friendships that we run into, but as we move and change jobs, people just tend to fall away from us. I actually have a high school friend, Mike, that I was really close with in high school. Junior high school, we were very, very close. Small group of guys that were just very, very close friends. We went to different colleges. We lost touch. And then I can't remember how we reconnected, but we did. And it was great. I mean, we caught up on old times. But at the same time, I felt like an idiot because he's such a great guy. And I missed years and years of friendship with him that I would have traveled to see him wherever he was. Well, a few years ago, this guy became a C-level executive for one of the most well-known companies in all of America. His role is, it's a trophy role. And anybody in his field with his specialty would take it immediately and consider that to be the end role of their career. And of course, he's only 45 years old. And he has some serious perks that are very limited in the world. And he has access to them and makes them available to me. I may never ask him for a favor for his role. And I do favors for him every once in a while. If I had found out now, after he had been in that role for a while, and then he had sensed my interest that I may rekindle the relationship, I wonder if he might have thought that I was doing it because the role he was in. Maybe it doesn't apply in this case, and he and I were friends when we were 10 years old. But it makes a difference, and you need to stay in touch with people even when it doesn't appear that they add any value, because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they may add value. And you want people who are more senior to you wanting to stay in touch with you, because in 5 or 10 years, you may be more valuable to them at some point because of your location or your job or your spouse or your connections or your company or whatever else. Okay, so how do you stay in touch?
I just figured out who you're talking about.
Yeah.
There are some serious perks for that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you called him out of the blue, he would have absolutely assumed that you called him because of his position and his access to those perks.
And now I stay at his house and take advantage of the perks. Yes.
Yeah. But for different reasons.
Yes. Okay. So how do you do it? And this is the easiest rule of the 3 to do. All you have to do is capture contact information for that person. I don't care whether you write their name down on your arm or you have to get a business card or whatever. And then you simply make a note to stay in touch on a recurring basis. That is it. People who tell you need to send articles or you need to send Christmas cards or you need to make it clever or you need to do something different to make yourself stand out, don't bother. It doesn't work because you end up spending all your time thinking to yourself, well, I need to get ready to touch base with that guy, but I don't have anything to share. I don't have anything new. I don't have an article that relates to his business in the financial accounting business or whatever.
Right. So you never do it.
They never do it. It becomes, it's a bit like why managers don't coach, Mike, because they think coaching takes a lot of their time. And so they say, the heck with it. We'll just let him sink or swim on his own. Well, the fact is, if you want to stay in touch with people, all you need to do is Control-Shift-K in Outlook. We'd love to hear, by the way, from somebody else for those technologies that they use, how to set up recurring tasks so we can post those on the discussion forums, or you can post it on the discussion forum and then we can read about it. But Outlook is so prevalent. You hit Control-Shift-K, up comes a task, and you start the task with stay in touch with. And for instance, if it was me, it would be stay in touch with Mark Horstman. And then you put a date down for that. Maybe it's a month or 6 weeks after we meet. And then you hit Control-G, and Control-G up comes a recurrence, and you say, I want this to recur every quarter, and don't put an end date on it. And then in about a month, you'll have forgotten about me, and then you'll be reminded, and you'll pick up the phone and you'll say, "Hey, Mark, how's it going? Hope this finds you well. I was in Dallas the other day. I thought about you. I hope your move went well. I hope your new job is excellent. I, really heard great things about Manager Tools. My work's fine. My family's fine. Best wishes. Call if you can. Enjoy your weekend. Bob." That's it.
You said quarterly. Is that a good number, or how about every 6 months or once a year, something like that?
I find I prefer quarterly, and with some people it's monthly, Mike. I have some people that I want to talk to once a month because we're very close, and yet we're all so busy that if I don't have a reminder, sometimes it slips, and I look up and I say, "My God, it's been 3 months since I talked to Robert. How can that be?"
So you manage your network. And you probably don't think about it as managing your network, but you make sure so that your network is strong that even those who you are closest to, you schedule it.
Yeah.
You make sure that you talk to them once a month.
Yeah, I have a stay in touch with note for you. Yeah.
Yeah, at least once a week.
Yeah, well, yeah, even more than that. But I have a note because I don't want to have to suddenly think about your role changing. Let's say for some reason we both rich and retire and we go separate places, and I doubt that'll happen. But if that's the case, I don't want to have to say, "Oh, my relationship with Mike changed, and so now I have to go in and I have to modify my network." I don't want to do that. So I put a recurring task on there that has no end date that says I'm going to talk to Mike Ozan every month. That way, if for some reason something happens, I know at a minimum we're going to be talking once a month.
Yeah.
Now, I don't recommend much longer than once a quarter. And I'll tell you, there are days when I open up Outlook and I have 50 people to stay in touch with. Now, it only takes a minute or two, and so it's not that big a deal. Most people will. I'm sure there's some people who are listening right now. So, there was a reason why I didn't want to do this all along, because when my network gets real big, it's going to be really hard to manage. Yes, it's going to be hard to manage, but boy, does it pay dividends, let me assure you.
Right. But do you always have to talk to them? Can you leave a voicemail or send a quick note?
I use email all the time, and email is asynchronous, so they're going to get it and they're going to be reminded of you. I just want to remind them that I'm thinking about them. So email is fine. Voicemail at 7 o'clock in the evening is fine. Calling them, you want to be careful about calling people's cell phones on the weekend because they'll pick up, and you don't want to bug them. When they're with their family or stuff like that. I generally don't recommend going much less than once a quarter. Once every 4 months is probably fine. I find that if you do it once every 6 months, Mike, and then you miss one, suddenly you're doing it once a year, and you might as well just send a Christmas card. And everybody knows that Christmas cards are kind of a joke, right? Christmas is not a joke, but the issue of sending 1,000 Christmas cards out to all your business friends, it just becomes an administrative nightmare. Email is great. I love it. And people send notes back all the time. Hey, great to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. Got promoted, doing this, doing that. And what I do, in my case with Outlook, is if the germane part of the mail that they send to me, I copy and paste into the notes section of their contact.
Okay.
So the next time I talk to them, I can remember that, Joe got promoted or his wife got promoted or they had twins or whatever. Yes, I keep track of kids' names, but not terribly well. I don't remember everybody's kids' names. When I remember to write them down, I write them down. But the most important thing is name, phone number, and email address, and Control-Shift-K and Control-G, set up a recurring task about once a quarter to stay in touch with them. And you send an email, you send a voicemail, you call them on the phone and say, "Hey, was thinking about you. Saw an article about the Chicago Bears and thought, hey, it's that time of year. I hope you're having fun at the games this year. Hope they have a chance at winning the title. Good luck. Hope things are going well. Give me a call if you get a minute. Mark." That's it.
Well, these three things are pretty simple. I suspect that if somebody did these three things, they'd probably be in the 95th percentile in terms of networking. Is that
a
fair bet?
One of the things I was thinking about when I got ready for this, Mike, is that I think when people do things new, we ought to make it as simple as possible. In fact, it's kind of like Google. This is kind of a beta approach. Don't make it complex. Don't build a complex structure that you have to fill in with people. Just build volume indiscriminately, give to them, and stay in touch. And you can do that with anybody, and you can practice